Discovery of the Ark. The icy moon of Viridian VI hung like a pale jewel against the backdrop of space, its surface a maze of cracks and fissures. Dr. Zarek, lead archaeologist of the Centauri Exploration Corps, peered through the view screen of his research vessel, his antennae twitching with anticipation. "Bring us in closer, Kelvin," he instructed his pilot. "Those energy readings are strongest near that large crater." As their ship descended through wisps of frozen atmosphere, Zarek's team of diverse alien scientists bustled about, securing equipment and double-checking readings. They had come to this remote system chasing whispers of an ancient civilization, one that had vanished mysteriously millennia ago. The ship touched down on the crater's rim with a gentle thud. Zarek was the first to step out onto the frigid surface, his environmental suit whirring as it adjusted to the extreme cold. He gazed across the desolate landscape, imagining the secrets that might lie buried beneath. "Fan out," he ordered. "Set up the deep scanning array. I want every cubic meter of this crater mapped and analyzed." For hours, the team worked tirelessly. Probes burrowed into the ice while hovering drones crisscrossed the area, building a three-dimensional map of what lay beneath. As the alien sun began to set, casting long shadows across the frozen wasteland, Zarek's second-in-command approached. "Doctor, you need to see this," she said, her voice tinged with excitement. Zarek hurried to the main scanner display. His eyes widened as he took in the image slowly forming on the screen. Buried deep within the ice was an enormous shape, unmistakably artificial and utterly alien to anything in their records. "By the Cosmic Forge," Zarek breathed. "It's a ship. A warship, if I'm not mistaken. And it's intact." The discovery electrified the team. They worked through the night, melting away layers of ice with precision lasers. As dawn broke, they had exposed a small section of the vessel's hull. Zarek stood before it, running a gloved hand over the smooth metal surface. "Look at this craftsmanship," he marveled. "The alloys, the design. Nothing like this exists in our databases." His assistant, Kelvin, approached cautiously. "Doctor, I've been analyzing the markings. I believe I've identified the language." Zarek turned, his antennae perking up. "Well, don't keep me in suspense." Kelvin's voice was barely above a whisper. "It's human." The word sent a ripple of shock through the assembled team. Humans were little more than a legend, a species said to have burst onto the galactic scene millennia ago, only to vanish just as quickly. Some said they had been wiped out by a superior force. Others claimed they had simply abandoned this part of space, but hard evidence of their existence was vanishingly rare. Zarek's mind raced with the implications. If this is truly a human vessel, it could rewrite our understanding of galactic history. We need to get inside. Over the next several days, the team worked feverishly to expose more of the massive ship. They uncovered a name emblazoned on the hull. HFY. Scans revealed the vessel to be over a kilometer in length, bristling with what appeared to be weapon emplacements and launch bays. As they prepared to cut their way inside, Zarek couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. Why would such a formidable warship be abandoned here, in the middle of nowhere? And why did it seem so well preserved after countless years entombed in ice? On the 5th day of the excavation, as they finally prepared to breach the outer hull, everything changed. Kelvin was the first to notice. "Doctor, the ship, it's warm." Zarek rushed to examine the hull. Where before it had been frigid to the touch, now he could feel heat radiating through his gloves. A low hum began to emanate from deep within the vessel, growing steadily in intensity. "Everyone back," Zarek shouted, but his warning came too late. With a thunderous crack, the ice encasing the Ark Hyperion split apart. Massive chunks tumbled away as the colossal ship began to rise, dwarfing the alien research vessels. Emergency klaxons blared as the team scrambled for safety. Zarek watched in awe and terror as the human warship ascended, shedding its icy prison like a butterfly emerging from a chrysalis. Weapon ports cycled open, and strange energies crackled along its hull. It hummed there for a moment, a titan reawakened, before its engines flared to life with a blue-white fury that lit up the dim world like a newborn star. As the Arch-Hyperion rose into the sky, Zarek's comlink crackled to life. A voice, speaking in flawless galactic standard, addressed him. "Attention, unknown vessels. This is Commander Elena Vega of the Earth Alliance ship Arch-Hyperion. You have awakened us from our long sleep. Identify yourselves and state your intentions." Zarek's hands trembled as he raised the comlink to respond. This was first contact with a legend, a moment that would reshape the galaxy. He took a deep breath and spoke. "This is Dr. Zarek of the Centauri Exploration Corps. We come in peace. Welcome back to the galaxy, humans. There is much we need to discuss." There was a long pause before Commander Vega responded, her voice a mixture of confusion and steely resolve. "Doctor, I'm afraid you'll need to explain yourself. Our ship's chronometers indicate we've been in stasis for over 500 years. What has happened to Earth? To the Alliance?" Zarek exchanged glances with his team, the weight of history pressing down upon them. How does one tell a newly awakened species that their civilization has crumbled to dust, remembered only in myths and fragments? "Commander," he began carefully, "much has changed. The galaxy you knew, it no longer exists, but your arrival may herald a new era for us all." As the massive human warship hovered above them, Zarek couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and dread. The humans were back, a species of legendary ingenuity and determination. But what would their return mean for a galaxy that had long since moved on without them? Inside the Arch-Hyperion, Commander Elena Vega gripped the arms of her command chair, her knuckles white. 500 years. It was impossible to fathom. She looked around at her crew, each face a mirror of her own shock and disbelief. "XO Thompson," she barked, forcing steel into her voice. "I want a full system diagnostic. Weapons, propulsion, life support, everything. And get me a secure channel to Earth Command." Her executive officer worked furiously at his console before turning to her with a grim expression. "Ma'am, long-range communications are offline. And there's no response on any Alliance frequencies." Vega's stomach churned. No response could mean only one thing. There was no one left to respond. She pushed the thought aside, focusing on the immediate situation. "What about our guests?" she asked, gesturing to the view screen where the alien vessels still huddled on the icy surface. "Scans show their tech to be far in advance of anything we encountered before our sleep," Thompson reported. "But they don't appear to be hostile. In fact, they seem more afraid of us." Vega nodded slowly. "Perhaps it's time we properly introduced ourselves. Prepare a shuttle. I'll lead a delegation to meet with this Dr. Zarek. And Thompson, have security on high alert. We don't know what kind of galaxy we've woken up to." As the human shuttle descended towards the alien encampment, Zarek and his team watched with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The craft was sleek and predatory, unlike anything in their records. It touched down with barely a whisper, and a moment later, the hatch cycled open. Commander Elena Vega stepped out, flanked by 2 armored Marines. She cut an imposing figure, tall and athletic, with short-cropped dark hair and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Zarek stepped forward, his translator working overtime to convert his clicks and whistles into something the humans could understand. "Commander Vega," he began, "on behalf of the Galactic Confederation, I welcome you. Your awakening is unprecedented." Vega's eyes narrowed slightly. "Galactic Confederation. I'm not familiar with that organization, Doctor. Perhaps you could start by explaining what's happened in the last 5 centuries. And so, as the twin suns of the Viridian system sank towards the horizon, Zarek began to recount the fall of humanity's interstellar civilization. He spoke of great wars that had reshaped the political landscape, of technological leaps and catastrophic setbacks. Through it all, Vega and her officers listened in stony silence, their faces masks of controlled emotion. "And Earth?" Vega finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Zarek's antennae drooped. "I'm sorry, Commander. Earth is no more. The details have been lost to time, but the homeworld of humanity is now nothing more than a legend." The news hit Vega like a physical blow. She staggered slightly, steadied by one of her Marines. 500 years of history, gone in an instant. Everything and everyone they had known turned to dust. But as quickly as the shock came, it was replaced by a steely resolve. Vega straightened, her eyes blazing with determination. "Dr. Zarek," she said, her voice ringing with authority, "I appreciate your candor. But understand this, the Hyperion was not merely a warship. We carry within us the seeds of humanity's rebirth. Colonists, scientists, the best and brightest of our species, all in stasis. We were meant to be humanity's insurance policy against extinction." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Our mission has not changed. We will find a new home, rebuild our civilization, and we will reclaim our place among the stars." Zarek's mind reeled at the implications. A fully equipped human colony ship, armed to the teeth and filled with the elite of a legendary species. It could upset the delicate balance of power in the Confederation. Before he could formulate a response, alarms began blaring from both the human shuttle and the alien research vessels. Kelfen rushed over, her face pale with fear. "Doctor, multiple ships just dropped out of FTL at the edge of the system. They're on an intercept course." Vega's hand flew to her communicator. "Hyperion, report." "Commander," came the tense reply. "We've got incoming. A lot of incoming. Configurations match Confederation military vessels, but they're powering up weapons. Your orders?" Vega turned to Zarek, her eyes hard. "I thought you said you came in peace, Doctor. Care to explain why we're about to be under attack?" Zarek's mandibles clicked in agitation. "This isn't us. We're a civilian research team. Unless..." His voice trailed off as a chilling realization struck him. "Unless what?" Vega demanded. "The stewards?" Zarek whispered. "They're a secretive faction within the Confederation. Zealots who believe that humanity's return would upset the cosmic balance. They must have detected your ship's activation." Vega's jaw clenched. They had been awake for mere hours, and already the galaxy was trying to erase them again. She wouldn't allow it. Not this time. "Doctor," she said, her voice cold as the ice beneath their feet, "I suggest you and your team get to safety. It seems we have a fight on our hands." As Zarek and his aliens scrambled for their ships, Vega strode back to her shuttle, barking orders into her comlink. The Hyperion had slumbered for centuries, but now it was time for humanity to remind the galaxy why they had once been feared and respected. High above, the massive warship's weapons came online, preparing to face an enemy from a future they never expected to see. The battle for humanity's second chance was about to begin. Revelations and pursuit. As the Hyperion's engines roared to life, Commander Elena Vega stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. A swarm of enemy vessels approached rapidly, their intentions clear. "All hands to battle stations," Vega ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around her. "Bring weapons online and prepare for evasive maneuvers." Exode Thompson worked feverishly at his console, his face lined with worry. "Commander, our systems are still coming back online after the long stasis. We're at maybe 60% combat effectiveness." Vega's jaw tightened. "It'll have to be enough. We didn't sleep for 5 centuries just to be wiped out now." The first salvo from the approaching steward ships lit up space, a barrage of energy weapons and missiles streaking towards the Hyperion. The massive human vessel banked hard, its point defense systems engaging to swat incoming projectiles from the void. "Return fire," Vega commanded. "Target their lead ships. Let's show them what Earth Alliance technology can do." The Hyperion's main gun spoke, lances of coherent light slicing through the darkness. Two steward vessels erupted in silent explosions, their hulls shattered by weaponry centuries ahead of their own. As the battle raged, Dr. Zarek and his team watched from their research vessel, now a safe distance from the conflict. The alien archaeologist marveled at the raw power of the human warship, even as he feared the consequences of this violent reemergence. "We have to do something," Kelthan urged. "The Hyperion saved us. We can't just leave them." Zarek nodded grimly. "Agreed. Open a channel to the Confederation Council. They need to know what's happening here." Back on the Hyperion, Vega and her crew fought with desperate intensity. Despite being outnumbered, the advanced human vessel was holding its own, its shields absorbing punishment that would have annihilated lesser ships. "Commander," Thompson called out, "I'm detecting energy buildup in the enemy fleet. It looks like they're preparing for a coordinated strike." Vega's mind raced. They couldn't withstand a full assault, not in their current state. They needed an edge, something unexpected. "The stasis bays," she murmured, then louder. "Thompson, begin revival procedures for Delta Squad." Her XO's eyes widened. "The augmented troops. But ma'am, we don't know what 500 years of stasis might have done to them." "We're out of options," Vega replied grimly. "Wake them up." Deep within the Hyperion, cryopods hissed open. 6 figures stirred, enhanced human soldiers bioengineered for peak combat performance. Their leader, Major Alexei Volkov, was the first to step out, his cybernetic eyes quickly adapting to the dim light. "Status report," he growled, his voice rough from centuries of disuse. As Vega briefed the newly awakened squad, the steward fleet pressed its attack. The Hyperion shuddered under the onslaught, alarms blaring throughout the ship. "Shields at 30%. Thompson shouted over the din. "We can't take much more of this." Vega opened a channel to the hangar bay. "Major Volkov, you're clear for deployment." "Give 'em hell." 6 sleek fighter craft streaked out of the Hyperion's launch bays, piloted by soldiers with reflexes and combat skills far beyond normal human limits. They tore into the steward formation, sowing chaos and destruction. The tide of battle began to turn. With Delta Squad harrying the enemy from all sides, the Hyperion was able to regroup and launch a counteroffensive. One by one, the steward ships fell to the combined might of 21st-century human military prowess. As the last enemy vessel flickered and died, an eerie silence fell over the battlefield. Vega allowed herself a moment of relief before turning to her XO. "Damage report." Thompson consulted his displays. "Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12, but emergency force fields are holding. We've lost about 20% of our offensive capabilities. Life support and propulsion are stable." Vega nodded, her mind already racing ahead to their next move. "What about the stasis bays?" "Our colonists. All secure, Commander. No casualties among the sleepers." A weight lifted from Vega's shoulders. Their mission, the survival and rebirth of humanity, was still viable. But they were alone in a galaxy that had moved on without them, with unknown threats lurking in the shadows. "Open a channel to Dr. Zarek's vessel," she ordered. The alien archaeologist's face appeared on the main view screen, his expression a mixture of awe and concern. "Commander Vega, I'm glad to see you've survived. On behalf of the Confederation, I must apologize for." Vega cut him off with a wave of her hand. "Save it, Doctor. Right now, I need information. Who are these stewards, and why are they so determined to destroy us?" Zarek's antennae drooped slightly. "The Stewards of Cosmic Balance are a powerful faction within the Confederation. They believe that humanity's disappearance was a necessary correction to the Galactic Order. Your return threatens everything they stand for. And the rest of the Confederation. Will they all be gunning for us now?" The alien hesitated. "It's complicated. Many would welcome humanity's return. Others fear it. The Steward's attack was unsanctioned, but I fear it may be just the beginning." Vega's expression hardened. She turned to her crew, her voice ringing with determination. "Then we can't stay here. Plot a course out of this system. maximum speed. We need to find a safe haven, somewhere to regroup and plan our next move." As the Hyperion's engines flared to life, preparing to jump to faster-than-light travel, Zarek spoke up again. "Commander, wait. There might be a place, a rumor I've heard in my studies, a hidden human outpost, established in the last days before your civilization fell. If it still exists, it could be the sanctuary you need." Vega's eyes narrowed. "Why should we trust you, Doctor? For all we know, you could be leading us into a trap." Zarek met her gaze unflinchingly. "Because I believe your return could usher in a new age of discovery and progress for the entire galaxy. And because I'm coming with you." Silence fell over the Hyperion's bridge as Vega considered the alien's words. Finally, she nodded. "Very well, Doctor. Give us the coordinates. But understand this. If you betray us, you'll wish the stewards had destroyed us when they had the chance." As Zarek's small vessel was brought aboard the Hyperion, the massive human warship orientated itself towards the coordinates of the fabled hidden outpost. With a flash of light that momentarily outshone the system's star, it vanished into the depths of space. In its wake, the remaining steward vessels regrouped. Their commander, a being of cold logic and zealous dedication to the cosmic status quo, opened a channel to his superiors. "The human vessel has escaped," he reported, his voice devoid of emotion. "They appear to have aid from elements within the Confederation. Your orders." The response came swiftly. "Pursue and destroy. The humans must not be allowed to reestablish themselves. The balance must be maintained at any cost." As word of the battle spread throughout the Confederation, opinions were sharply divided. Some saw the humans' return as a thrilling opportunity, a chance to learn from a species of legendary ingenuity. Others viewed it as a threat to the delicate peace that had reigned since humanity's disappearance. Across the galaxy, ancient protocols and hidden contingencies began to activate. In distant, forgotten outposts, automated systems stirred to life, awaiting the return of their long-lost masters. And in the shadows, other forces, some allied, some hostile, prepared to make their moves in the high-stakes game that was about to unfold. Aboard the Hyperion, Commander Vega stood before a holographic display of the galaxy, vast and unknown. She felt the weight of her entire species' future resting on her shoulders. They were lost in time, surrounded by potential enemies, with only the faintest hope of finding allies. But as she looked around at her crew, the best and brightest humanity had to offer, she felt a surge of determination. They had survived the end of their civilization. They had slept for centuries, only to wake to battle. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew that the indomitable human spirit would find a way to overcome them. "All ahead full," she ordered, her voice steady and resolute. "Let's go make history." The Hyperion surged forward, carrying with it the last, best hope for humanity's renaissance. Behind it, pursuit was already underway. And ahead lay a galaxy of wonders and dangers, waiting to be rediscovered. The human odyssey had begun anew. Battle and escape. The Hyperion hurtled through the void, its advanced engines pushing the limits of faster-than-light travel. On the bridge, Commander Elena Vega studied the long-range sensor readings, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Any sign of pursuit, XO Thompson?" she asked, not taking her eyes off the display. Thompson shook his head. "Nothing definitive, Commander. But there's a lot of background noise. Could be some kind of stealth tech we're not familiar with." Vega nodded grimly. They had been traveling for days, following the coordinates provided by Dr. Zarek to the rumored human outpost. So far, they had encountered nothing but empty space and the occasional uninhabited system. "Commander," Zarek spoke up from his position at one of the auxiliary stations. "The alien archaeologists have been working tirelessly to help the humans understand the current state of the galaxy. We're approaching the outer edge of what used to be human-controlled space. If the outpost exists, it should be somewhere in this region." Vega was about to respond when alarms blared across the bridge. Thompson's fingers flew across his console. Multiple contacts dropping out of FTL. He shouted, "Steward vessels, at least a dozen of them. They've got us boxed in." Vega's mind raced. They were so close to their goal, they couldn't afford to be caught now. Battle stations. Bring weapons online and prepare for evasive maneuvers. As the crew scrambled to their positions, the vast emptiness of space was suddenly filled with streaks of weapons fire. The steward ships, sleek and deadly, closed in from all sides, their intentions clear. "They're jamming our communications," Thompson reported, his voice tense. "We can't call for help." Not that there was anyone to call, Vega thought grimly. They were alone out here, cut off from everything they had once known. But she pushed the thought aside, focusing on the battle at hand. "Delta Squad, launch and engage," she ordered. "Buy us some time to find a way out of this trap." The enhanced human fighters streaked out of the Hyperion's launch bays, immediately engaging the nearest steward vessels. Major Volkov's voice crackled over the comms. "We'll keep them busy, Commander. But there's too many of them. We need an exit strategy." Vega turned to Zarek, her eyes blazing with intensity. "Doctor, you said this area used to be human space. Are there any nearby systems where we might find cover? Somewhere to lose our pursuers?" The alien's fingers danced across his console as he consulted ancient star charts. "There," he exclaimed, "a dense nebula, not far from here. It could interfere with their sensors, give us a chance to slip away." "Plot a course," Vega commanded. "All power to engines and shields. We're going to have to punch through their line." The Hyperion surged forward, its massive bulk belying its incredible speed and maneuverability. Vega watched the tactical display, calling out orders as they wove through the steward formation. "Concentrate fire on that cruiser at 2 o'clock, she barked. "Create a gap we can exploit." The human warship's main gun spoke, lances of energy tearing through the enemy vessel's shields and ripping into its hull. As the cruiser exploded, the Hyperion shot through the opening, streaking towards the nebulous swirling gases. "Delta Squad, fall back and dock immediately," Vega ordered. "We're making a run for it." The fighter craft zoomed back towards their mothership, weaving through enemy fire. One took a glancing hit, spiraling out of control before its pilot managed to correct course and limp back to the hangar. As they approached the nebula, the pursuing steward ships intensified their assault. The Hyperion shuddered under the barrage, alarms blaring as systems were pushed to their limits. "Shields at 15%. Thompson shouted over the din. "We can't take much more of this." Vega gripped the arms of her command chair, her knuckles white. "Divert all non-essential power to shields and propulsion. We just need to make it a little further." The nebula loomed before them, a vast cloud of dust and ionized gas that seemed to reach out with tendrils of cosmic mist. As they plunged into its depths, the sensors immediately began to falter, screens filling with static. "I've lost the enemy contacts," Thompson reported. "But our own systems are severely degraded. We're flying blind in here." Vega allowed herself a small smile. "So are they. Take us deeper, random course changes every few minutes. Let's see them try to follow us now." For hours, the Hyperion wound its way through the nebula's treacherous currents. Occasionally, they would catch glimpses of steward ships searching fruitlessly nearby, but the dense gases and electromagnetic interference kept them hidden. Finally, as they emerged from the other side of the vast cosmic cloud, there were no signs of pursuit. A collective sigh of relief swept through the bridge. "Damage report," Vega called out, allowing herself to relax slightly for the first time in hours. Thompson consulted his displays. "Hull integrity at 72%. We got multiple systems operating at reduced capacity, but nothing critical. The stasis bays are undamaged." Vega nodded, then turned to Zarek. "Doctor, where are we? Can you get a fix on our position?" The alien archaeologist studied the star charts, his antennae twitching in concentration. Suddenly, he let out a gasp of surprise. "Commander, I think I think we found it. The human outpost. It's here, in this system. All eyes turned to the main view screen as Zarek brought up a magnified image of a distant planetoid. There, nestled in the shadows of a cratered surface, was an unmistakably artificial structure. Life signs? Vega asked, hardly daring to hope. Thompson worked his console, then looked up with wide eyes. Confirmed, Commander. There are humans down there. Alive. A wave of emotion swept through the bridge. Relief, excitement, and trepidation all mixed together. They had found other survivors, a link to their lost civilization. But what would they find on the surface? How had these people changed after centuries of isolation? As the Hyperion moved into orbit around the planetoid, Vega stood, her voice ringing with authority. Prepare a landing party. We'll make first contact ourselves. After all this time, our lost brothers and sisters deserve to hear from us directly that humanity is coming home. The mood on the bridge was electric as they prepared for descent. They had survived battles, outrun pursuers, and navigated the dangers of an unfamiliar galaxy. Now, they stood on the brink of reuniting with a fragment of their lost civilization. But even as hope surged through the crew, questions lingered. How would these isolated humans react to their arrival? What secrets did this hidden outpost hold? And most pressingly, how long before the stewards tracked them down? As the landing shuttle prepared for launch, Vega knew that their trials were far from over. The battle for humanity's future was just beginning. But for the first time since awakening in this strange new era, she felt a glimmer of true optimism. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The sleepers of the Hyperion and the guardians of this forgotten outpost. United, perhaps they could forge a new destiny for their species among the stars. The shuttle's engines ignited, carrying them down towards the surface and into the next chapter of humanity's incredible journey. Building alliances, the shuttle touched down on the planetoid's surface with a gentle thud, kicking up a cloud of dust that slowly settled in the low gravity. Commander Elena Vega was the first to step out, her eyes scanning the horizon where the hidden human outpost lay. Atmosphere's breathable, but thin, she reported back to her team. Stay alert. We don't know what kind of reception we'll get. As they approached the structure, signs of life became more apparent. Lights flickered behind reinforced windows, and sensor readings showed complex power systems humming beneath the surface. When they reached the main airlock, Vega took a deep breath and pressed the communication panel. For a long moment, there was silence. Then, a crackle of static, followed by a cautious voice. Identify yourselves. Vega stepped forward. This is Commander Elena Vega of the Earth Alliance ship Hyperion. We've come a long way to find you. Another pause, longer this time. Finally, the airlock cycled open with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Standing before them was a man in his mid-40s, his face a mixture of shock and disbelief. Earth Alliance, he whispered. But that's impossible. You're all supposed to be dead. Vega offered a wry smile. Rumors of our demise have been greatly exaggerated. May we come in? We had a lot to discuss. The man, who introduced himself as Governor Marcus Chen, led them into the heart of the outpost. As they walked, Vega and her team marveled at the blend of familiar human technology and strange alien adaptations. It was clear that this isolated pocket of humanity had been forced to innovate to survive. In a conference room deep within the complex, Governor Chen listened with rapt attention as Vega recounted the Hyperion's awakening and their subsequent battles with the stewards. When she finished, he leaned back, his face grave. We always knew this day might come, he said softly. That's why this outpost was established, as a failsafe, a hidden seed of humanity in case the worst happened. He activated a holographic display, showing the layout of the outpost and its various facilities. We've spent centuries preparing, Commander, gathering intelligence, developing technologies, even making discreet alliances with sympathetic alien races. We may be small, but we're not defenseless. Vega leaned forward, her eyes shining with newfound hope. Then you'll help us. Join forces to reclaim our place in the galaxy. Chen nodded slowly. We will, but it won't be easy. The stewards are just the tip of the iceberg. There are factions out there that would see humanity wiped from existence entirely. As if on cue, alarms began blaring throughout the complex. A young officer burst into the room, her face pale. Governor, we've detected multiple ships entering the system. Steward configurations, heavily armed. Vega cursed under her breath. They must have followed us through the nebula. Chen was already moving, barking orders into a communicator. Initiate Protocol Omega. And contact our allies. It's time to call in those favors. He turned to Vega, his expression grim but determined. Commander, I hope your ship is ready for another fight, because the battle for humanity's future starts now. What followed was a flurry of activity as the outpost's defenses came online, and the Hyperion moved into position to defend its newfound allies. But they weren't alone for long. From hidden bases across the system, ships of various designs began to emerge. Some were clearly of human origin, secret vessels that the outpost had constructed over the centuries. Others were alien, representing races that had chosen to cast their lot with humanity's remnant. As the steward fleet approached, they found themselves facing not just a single human warship, but a diverse armada united in purpose. The battle that ensued was unlike anything Vega had ever experienced. Human ingenuity combined with alien technologies in ways she could never have imagined. The Hyperion's advanced weapons complemented the hit-and-run tactics of the outpost's smaller craft, while their alien allies provided capabilities that took the stewards completely by surprise. In the thick of the fight, Vega found herself coordinating with beings she had never encountered before. A crystalline entity that could predict enemy movements, a gaseous species that could temporarily disable enemy systems with electromagnetic pulses. Despite being outnumbered, the Allied fleet fought with a cohesion and determination that the stewards couldn't match. One by one, the enemy ships were disabled or destroyed, until finally, the remainder turned tail and fled. As the last steward vessel winked out of sensor range, a cheer went up across the communications channels. Humanity and its allies had won the day. In the aftermath, as repairs were underway and the dead were mourned, Vega stood with Governor Chen in the outpost's observation dome, looking out at the assembled fleet. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" she asked quietly. Chen nodded. "The stewards will be back, and in greater numbers. But we've proven something important today. That humanity isn't alone. That we have allies willing to stand with us." Vega turned to him, her eyes blazing with determination. "Then we build on this. We find more of our lost colonies, gather more allies. And when we're ready, we take the fight to them." A smile tugged at Chen's lips. "You know, Commander, there's an old human saying that seems appropriate. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. I think we've just proved that on a galactic scale." As they continued to gaze out at the stars, Vega felt a surge of hope. Yes, the road ahead would be difficult. Yes, they faced enemies that wanted to see humanity extinct. But they had survived against all odds, found allies in the most unexpected places, and rekindled the indomitable human spirit. The galaxy had forgotten the tenacity and ingenuity of the human race. It was time to remind them. "Governor," Vega said, her voice filled with resolve, "let's show the universe what humanity can do when we work together." And so, in that hidden outpost orbiting an unremarkable planetoid, the seeds of a new human renaissance were sown. The Hyperion, once a lonely vessel out of time, now stood as the vanguard of a growing alliance. The battle for humanity's future had only just begun, but for the first time in centuries, it was a battle they might actually win. New dawn for humanity. In the months that followed the battle at the hidden outpost, the alliance forged in fire began to grow and strengthen. The Hyperion, under Commander Vega's leadership, became the flagship of a burgeoning fleet. They scoured the galaxy for more lost human colonies, awakening them from centuries of isolation and bringing them into the fold. Governor Chen's intelligence network proved invaluable, providing information on steward movements and potential allies. Slowly but surely, a picture of the galactic political landscape emerged, and with it, a strategy for humanity's resurgence. On the bridge of the Hyperion, Vega stood before a holographic display of known space, surrounded by her senior staff and representatives from their alien allies. The map was dotted with glowing points of light, each one a rediscovered human outpost or a friendly alien world. "The stewards are mobilizing," she began, her voice steady and determined. "They've realized that simply hunting us isn't enough. They're preparing for a full-scale assault on our alliance." A murmur ran through the assembled group. Zarek, who had become an invaluable advisor, spoke up. "Commander, even with our growing numbers, we can't hope to match their military might. The stewards control vast swaths of the Confederation's resources." Vega nodded, a grim smile playing at her lips. "You're right, Doctor, which is why we're not going to fight them. We're going to expose them." With a gesture, she zoomed in on a particular sector of space. "Our intelligence suggests that the stewards' power stems from a hidden installation here, in the Veil Nebula. It's where they've been developing weapons to use against us, and more importantly, it's where they keep records of their true agenda." Major Volkov, leader of Delta Squad, leaned forward with interest. "What kind of agenda are we talking about, Commander?" "The kind that would turn the entire Confederation against them," Vega replied. "We have reason to believe that the stewards' obsession with cosmic balance goes far beyond simply suppressing humanity. They've been manipulating events on a galactic scale for centuries, engineering conflicts and stunting the development of countless species." The implications of this revelation sent shockwaves through the room. If true, it would mean the stewards were a threat not just to humanity, but to the entire galaxy. "So what's the plan?" Chen asked, his eyes alight with strategic possibilities. Vega's voice rang with authority as she outlined their daring strategy. "We're going to launch a multi-pronged assault. While the bulk of our fleet engages the steward forces here and here," she indicated points on the map, "a small elite team will infiltrate the Veil Nebula installation." She turned to Volkov. "Major, I want you and Delta Squad to lead the infiltration. Your goal is to retrieve the stewards' secret files and broadcast them across every communication channel in the Confederation." Volkov nodded, a predatory grin spreading across his face. "Consider it done, Commander." As the briefing continued, detailing the roles each part of their alliance would play, a sense of anticipation built in the room. This was it, the moment that would decide the fate not just of humanity, but potentially of the entire galaxy. Days later, the plan was set in motion. The Allied fleet, a motley assortment of human and alien vessels, dropped out of FTL on the edge of steward-controlled space. Almost immediately, they were met with fierce resistance. The battle that ensued was unlike anything the galaxy had seen in centuries. Human ingenuity and determination combined with the unique abilities of their alien allies to create a force that fought with incredible synergy and adaptability. Aboard the Hyperion, Vega coordinated the assault, her voice steady as she issued commands. "Crystalline ships, focus your precognitive abilities on predicting enemy movements. Gaseous allies, prepare EMP bursts to disable their lead vessels." As the main fleet engaged, drawing the bulk of the steward forces, a sleek, stealthy craft slipped away from the battle. On board, Major Volkov and Delta Squad prepared for their crucial mission. "Remember," Volkov briefed his team, "speed is essential. We get in, secure the data, and broadcast it before they can stop us. The fate of humanity rests on this mission." The infiltration was a masterclass in covert operations, using a combination of advanced human stealth tech and alien cloaking devices. Delta Squad penetrated the heart of the steward installation. They fought their way through layers of security, each member of the team pushing themselves to the limit. Meanwhile, the space battle raged on. The Hyperion took heavy fire, its shields flickering as it stood at the center of the Allied formation. Vega gritted her teeth as another impact rocked the ship. "Shields at 30%, Thompson reported, his voice tense. "We can't take much more of this." Just when it seemed the tide was turning against them, Volkov's voice crackled over the comms. "Commander, we're in. Uploading the files now." Vega's heart raced. "Broadcast on all frequencies. Let the entire Confederation see the truth." Across the battlefield, screens flickered to life. The steward's secret files poured out into the ether, evidence of their manipulations, their lies, their utter disregard for the species they claimed to protect. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Confederation ships, which had been moving to reinforce the stewards, suddenly hesitated. Some even turned their weapons on their former allies. As confusion spread through the steward ranks, Vega seized the moment. "All ships, press the advantage. Show them what happens when you underestimate humanity." The Allied fleet surged forward, their coordinated assault tearing through the now disorganized steward formation. One by one, enemy ships fell silent or fled. Hours later, as the last pockets of resistance were mopped up, Vega stood on the Hyperion's observation deck. She watched as Confederation peacekeeping forces arrived, their leaders eager to distance themselves from the steward's actions. Governor Chen joined her, his face weary but triumphant. "We did it," he said softly. "Humanity has reclaimed its place in the stars." Vega nodded, her eyes fixed on the swirling nebula beyond. "This is just the beginning," she replied. "We've won our right to exist, but now comes the hard part, proving that we deserve to be here, that we can be a force for good in this galaxy." As if in answer to her words, a transmission came through from the Confederation leadership. They requested a meeting with the leaders of the Human Alliance, not as defeated enemies, but as potential partners in forging a new galactic order. Vega smiled, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. The road ahead would not be easy, but humanity had proven once again that it could overcome any obstacle, adapt to any challenge. From the brink of extinction, they had risen to become a linchpin in the galaxy's future. The human spirit, tempered by adversity and strengthened by unlikely friendships, was ready to shine brighter than ever before. As the Hyperion prepared to lead their fleet to the historic meeting, Vega thought of all they had endured: the long sleep, the desperate battles, the forging of improbable alliances. They had not just survived. They had thrived. "Take us in," she ordered, her voice filled with quiet pride. "It's time for humanity to reintroduce itself to the galaxy." The Hyperion, once a lonely relic, now the herald of a new era, engaged its engines. Around it, ships of a dozen species moved in formation, a living testament to the power of cooperation and the indomitable will of the human race. As they accelerated towards their rendezvous with destiny, Vega allowed herself a moment of reflection. They had faced extinction and emerged victorious. Whatever challenges the future held, she knew that humanity, and the allies they had gathered, would face them together. The stars beckoned, full of promise and possibility, and humanity, reborn and renewed, was ready to answer their call.